My friends at ezCater are workplace catering pros, helping you find food for everything from daily employee meals to staff meetings and special events. Visit ezcater.com/leaderassistant to find out more.
The Leader Assistant podcast exists to encourage and challenge assistants to become confident, game-changing leader assistants.
Are you tasked with ordering food for your office? Let me tell you about ezCater. With over 100,000 restaurants to choose from nationwide and 24/7 customer support, ezCater helps assistants like you and me succeed at work and makes our lives easier. Visit ezcater.com/leaderassistant to find out more. Hey friends, welcome to the Leader Assistant podcast. It's your host, Jeremy Burrows, and this is episode 239. It's a very special episode because in way back in episode number 38, I had the privilege of speaking with Lucy Brazier, and Lucy and I had a great conversation. You can check out that episode and our first interview conversation at leaderassistant.com/38, leaderassistant.com/38 to check out part one. But now, 200 episodes later, 201 episodes later, a few years later, I'm excited to welcome back Lucy Brazier for episode 239. Lucy, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much, Jeremy. It's always great to see you, and I'm so looking forward to this.
Awesome. So a lot's happened in the last few years since we last spoke. So let's jump right in and tell us a couple personal things that have happened with you, with maybe your hobbies or your travel or your family. What's something that you've been grateful for over the last 3 years?
Oh, grateful for so many things. But of course, with COVID hitting, we were in London when COVID hit. We were 2 months off our big conference, I think. 2 weeks off our big conference, actually. And we had nowhere to live. So that was all very exciting. And very luckily, my church found us a house. And we stayed there from the April through till August, when we were finally able to move to Spain, which had long been a dream. And my husband is 20 years older than me. So he has retired there and I now have an office there. So it's a whole new way of life. And it is wonderful. It's a 30-minute walk to work in the morning, right along the seafront. So it's very beautiful and I can see wonderful things first thing in the morning every day. And I have a new team out there and it's just an absolute joy. So that's one thing that's personal, which I am very grateful for because it gives me a lot more balance in my life. And the temperature is certainly better than the UK. But secondly, the other thing, which I know a lot of the listeners will probably have seen, is getting my OBE back in 2021, which was a complete surprise. And for those of you that aren't from the UK, you won't know what that is, but it was an OBE is an Officer of the British Empire Award, and I was awarded it by the late Queen. So I now have a scroll that's sitting on my wall in Spain with her signature in blue ink on it. But I actually went to Windsor Castle a couple of weeks back and got awarded it by the King. So all very exciting and really lovely to have that recognition for services to office professionals.
Awesome. Well, congratulations. And yeah, that's definitely a big accomplishment. All right. Well, let's talk about professionally now. So your work with it now, I think when we last spoke, it was your organization was named differently, and so now you're Executive Support Media, and so I believe you had a name change, and then you've done, obviously you mentioned the COVID transition, but what's been maybe your most exciting thing in your professional organization as far as what you've done with assistants and what are you excited about these days? I know it's been a while since we've chatted.
Yes, you're so right. So when we last spoke, we were executive secretary, and obviously that word was becoming obsolete, and it was very important that we were keeping up with the times. So we became executive support media, which is far more where things are at. But I think, over COVID, like everybody else, we pivoted, and I hate that word, but I can't think of a better one. And we went and did all sorts of things online. So we moved from doing 5 conferences a year on 5 different continents to doing 2 a year now, in person and 2 online, which is wonderful. But the thing I'm most excited about is the work that is actually not my commercial work at all. It's the Global Skills Matrix. And the Global Skills Matrix, which is the World Administrators Alliance product, is a career framework for assistants that was signed off by the heads of association from 29 different countries. And it means that for the very first time, there is a way to look at the career of an assistant and to see all 5 different levels and what skills and behaviours and tasks you can expect for each level. And we've now drawn up competencies that you can align with that as well. And so I think it's really exciting. We're talking to some of the biggest businesses in the world about how they restructure their administrative functions to turn them into departments often. And I think that's really important, because previously they had said, we can't have people sitting in departments because they have to sit across the business, which meant you were very siloed, I think, as assistants. Whereas now, because so many are working from home or on a hybrid situation, it means that you can have, like everybody else, structure and leadership, a kind of, when I'm big, I want to be that person, and professional development and budget. And I think more than anything else, it's about goals and KPIs and performance review, so that you know when you're exceptional and you know when you should be getting promoted, rather than it being about either somebody managing you who says, oh, well, they're a nice person, let's give them a pay rise, because they don't understand what somebody in administration is meant to do at all. Or just because your executive is promoted and they say, well, it's time for them to get promoted at the same time. It gives you a career path all of your own. And that, to me, there are literally thousands of businesses now across the world who are implementing that. And BlackRock just got it over the line in America, which obviously they're a UK business and in various other places as well. But I was in New York when they got it over the line. And that was so exciting to see a business of that size finish their restructure, that they had sense checked against the Global Skills Matrix, and now their assistants are doing all sorts of interesting things. And in fact, they are in the process of putting together a case study for us, which I'm really hoping will be published, so that not probably for 18 months' time, because we have to see what the results are, but it'll give a really strong barometer for everybody else as to what the results can be when Global Skills Matrix is implemented. So that, for me, is the most exciting thing, because I think that's a total game changer for the profession.
Yeah, I often talk to assistants who are like, yeah, I'm working in this, small organization, and they give me high ratings on my performance reviews, and they say I'm doing great. But then when I ask for a salary increase, they're like, well, you're at the top of the salary range, and it's like they don't have a lot of HR departments, and a lot of org charts don't even have a bucket for the administrative professional titles. Whether you're executive assistant, administrative assistant, office manager, to executive support or executive business partner, all those different types of titles, they just don't really have anywhere for you. And so I think it's great to have different ways to kind of show people, like, listen, you've got all your engineers in a very clear career path. You've got all your salespeople with a very clear career path. You've got all your marketing people that have very clear career paths. How come there's not a clear path for executive assistants? So that's great.
Yeah, and it kind of ties into that wonderful article from Simone White on the need for inclusion, in which she says, I am a woman, I'm Black, but neither of those things have held me back in my career. The thing that has held me back is the fact that I'm an assistant. And really, She is now one of the most powerful assistants in the world. But I had a conversation not too long ago with the head of HR at European Central Bank, who was saying that they were looking at the issue of assistants in terms of inclusion, because they are excluded from so many different things. And you're absolutely right, Jeremy. It is so important that there is some form of career progression. And can you imagine if any of those departments, sales, marketing, finance, didn't have leadership and they were saying, well, you can organize yourselves, go and get a lunch and learn.
Right.
You would never have it, because you can't measure performance in that way. And the point is, with Global Skills Matrix, if you can't measure it, you can't improve it. And for the very first time, there is now a tool which says you can measure your assistants and what their performance is, and you can work out what the skills gaps are, and then you can train them to become a world-class administrative function so that they can underpin what the stakeholders are doing. And surely that's what every business worth its salt wants. I think, it's quantifiable, and I know you talk about this stuff all the time also, but we had an organization, just as an example, from America. It's a national laboratory. They had over 500 assistants. It took us a year to track them down because there were so many different job titles and they weren't sure how many they had. And we did the math for them because they were on an efficiency and cost saving drive. And we thought, well, okay, if we're putting together a document that is a case study, a business case for restructure, really important to make sure that we're doing the math in there. And when we worked out if each of those assistants was saving the middle management, not the senior management, the middle management, 1 hour a day, the amount of saving in a week was $88,600. And that's before they went and did anything else with the time, the executives in that time that had been saved. That's before you looked at the actual amount of time saved. That's before you looked at the senior management and their salaries, or finding the superstar assistants, or the ones who are retired in situ. And of course, there are also savings on recruitment costs. So it's a total no-brainer for me. And once you start talking about the business impact, then they're interested. They sit and they go, oh, we'd never thought about it like that. Okay, let's go back and take a look at it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love what you said about when we talk about the business impacts. I often say, the conversation that assistants need to have with their executives should be a business conversation, not a personal, here's how, I need to make more money. I feel like I need to make more money. I feel like I'm underpaid. No, that's not going to get you very far. It needs to be an objective business conversation with data and a business case that communicates in the way that your executive likes to be communicated to. And most of the time, in my experience, executives like to see raw data, and they like to see the cost and the return on the investment and the risk reward and all of those things. So well said.
Agreed. And I think coming out of COVID, businesses have become almost obsessed with proving the ROI on every member of staff. What is the quantifiable value that they're adding to the bottom line? And for the very first time, that's including the assistants. And most HR departments have no idea how to quantify that. So showing what it does for the business and for the executives in terms of improving their productivity, because we both know that for every hour of time that's saved, that drops directly to the bottom line, is very definitely the way to get this, across the line and to get them sit up and to take notice as the changes you want. And the other thing about coming out of COVID is that everything just changed. So what's one more change? And I think as assistants, we tend to sit back and go, oh, let's wait until everybody else has done their bit and see how it shakes down and then see where we fit. Please don't do that, because if you do that, it's all going to change and then they're going to go, well, it's done now. Look at it and work out where you want to sit, what value you're going to bring to your businesses, and push. And I know that's not something you're very good at, but push for your position within the business, because there's never been a better time for you to step into your potential and the role that you've always wanted it to be, I don't think.
Yeah, well said. And, speaking of potential, you recently published a book called The Modern Day Assistant: Build Your Influence and Boost Your Potential. So I'd love to, first of all, congrats on publishing the book. As a publisher or as a book author myself, I know it's a lot of work and it's a big project, and it can be very emotional and vulnerable and all the things. So congrats on getting your book out into the world. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what do you cover in the book, and what are you excited about to share with the world?
I think actually, the thing that I'm most terrified about, just before I tell you that, is the fact I can't change anything now. I don't know
Right.
about you, but you keep going over and over and over it, and then they say, right, done, you can't do any more. And for me, I wanted to get my 2-day course out there in book format and to tell some stories, I guess, and to just put it in the hands of all the people who really aren't able to come and attend my course. The more people that can get that information and can be helped to really understand where the role is headed, the better, And I think for me, I chose to not self-publish, but to do it through a proper publisher, mainly because and actually, if I published it myself, I would probably make a lot more money. But they are doing all sorts of PR for me. So hopefully there will be articles in the business press, which is what I'm interested in, because I want to get to the CEOs and to the heads of HR and so on, so that we can talk about things like the Global Skills Matrix and really help them to understand how to utilize the assistants properly. Because the survey we did when we did the Global Skills Matrix said that 78% of the assistants felt that they were not being used properly, and that the businesses they worked for didn't understand the impact that would be had if they were used properly. So I think it's those conversations I'm really excited about. But the book is, it's exactly the same structure really as my course, which is looking at the history first of all and what that means and where it's heading as a role. And then a whole load of stuff on leadership and on communication and on why networks are important. And obviously business strategy, because I think learning to speak business as an assistant is hugely important. The effect of hybrid working. There's some stuff in there about problem solving. And finally, we end up with stress and how you manage stress. So it's all sorts of different things. And I'm hoping it's a bit of a whistle-stop tour that'll really make them think. And I'm pleased, I think, that everybody who's read it so far has said they can really hear my voice in it, and they expected it to be a business book, and it is. And there's a lot of good information in there. But I think, as you said, there's an amount of vulnerability in there, and there's a lot of truth in there. And it's a lot about my personal journey. And I've come at it from the point of view as a CEO, and how I have utilized my assistants and what has made the most difference, as well as from a point of view as obviously learning from assistants all over the world over the last 12 years as I've been traveling, what their issues are and how they've dealt with them. So I'm hoping it'll become a bit of a treasure trove, really.
Yeah, that's great. Well, The Modern Assistant is available at major book retailers and Amazon. I'll include the link in the show notes at leaderassistant.com/239, leaderassistant.com/239. Definitely recommend checking that book out. And actually, you mentioned, Lucy, that the hard part is like, oh, you're done. You can't edit it anymore. You can't add anymore. So now that it's out and that you're done with it, what's that one thing that you're like, oh man, I should have wrote a chapter about this, or oh man, I should have added this to the book? Have you had that thought yet?
Certainly, because I've been blogging like crazy. I started a blog after I'd done it so that I could write other things. And things come to mind. I'm actually in the middle of doing a really huge piece of research, and I've done about 20 hours of talking to assistants so far to make sure that we're on the right track and we really understand where we're heading and whether we've got it right, more importantly. And the things they're telling us are really stimulating my thought processes for writing. So, for example, the other day I was talking to somebody who said, isn't it ironic that assistants who are trusted, probably one of the most trusted employees at their business, are not trusting themselves to advocate for themselves? And of course, how true is that? So I wrote a post on that. And culture as well, assistants being leaders of culture. That's another one that really went a bit bonkers when I did it, and a lot of people shared it and said, that was so useful. I hope you said more about that in the book. And no, I haven't. So, it's maybe there's a book two at some point.
I was going to say, there you go. Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing. And yeah, congrats on the book launch, and congrats on the OBE and all of the personal accomplishments and personal changes that you mentioned. And it's been great to catch up with you. What's the best place for people to just find you, reach out, say hi, connect, find out more about your events and everything else?
So the website is executivesupportmedia.com. If anybody's interested in the Global Skills Matrix, it is globalskillsmatrix.com, and there's all sorts of free downloads on there. It's our gift to the profession, World Administrators Alliance's gift to the profession. So all of that information is for free. And the other place to reach out to me is on LinkedIn, of course, because that's really my platform and the one that I engage with people on the most. So you can go and find me. It's literally Lucy Brazier. You'll see me.
Awesome. And then, just to wrap up our conversation, you've got hopefully thousands and thousands of people listening to this episode. If you could, let's imagine that they all were working in office and they were all driving to work right now. What's one thing you want to say to the assistants of the world as they're driving into the office or logging on to their remote desk?
You shall, and you will, and you must grab this moment. Don't wait for other people to do it for you. Everybody has their part to play in making this change for the profession. And so you need to step up and go talk to your HR departments before the moment has passed and you're looking back going, I wish we'd done it.
Awesome. Well said, Lucy. Well, thank you so much again for being on the show. For those listening, again, the show notes, leaderassistant.com/239. And if you want to check out part 1, where Lucy and I talk about different things and talk a little bit in a different era as well, a few years ago, that's episode 38, leaderassistant.com/38. So thanks again, Lucy, and best of luck to you.
Thank you so much, Jeremy.
Please review on Apple Podcasts. GoBulls.com